Hey y'all, it's Lena with What's Poppin' USA, Small Business Home Shopping Network. And today on Glass Table Talks, please help me welcome Miss Nicki Rowlett of the Parallel Agency. Now, on first thought, the Parallel Agency, I was like, is this kind of like some X-Files kind of stuff? But the more I dug, it actually has to do with organizational accountability, meaning goal setting and setting achievable, measurable goals for your business. So let's talk with Miss Nicki to figure out exactly how we can do that. Please help me welcome her to the show. But
Okay.
your business is for folks that are already, it seems, established. Your business is for setting measurable goals in a business that's already up and running. And I guess you can use it for a starter, like a starter too. But to me, it more seems like, all right, I've got this up and running and I kind of know where I want to get to, but I need to set some goals in order to get to that endpoint.
Yeah.
Is that kind of where
Yeah, so we've been in existence for about 2 years. We've had clients, but I will say, based upon the market that you're talking about with new business owners that are like, hey, I have this idea and I don't know where to start.
Right.
I am a 100% self-taught entrepreneur. Like
Right.
when I did not know, when someone said I need an EIN number for you, I Googled how to find an EIN
What's
number.
that?
Right, exactly. I have never invested in a business coach.
Right.
I have created everything like self creation on
Right.
my own. The members of our team have been super helpful in that, but I would say yes, you're accurate in the kind of level 2. I've got my idea, I'm established. Now, what do I do next? Really, how do I monetize my work? And how do I get paid to do what I'm going to do?
Right, because after we get this like fabulous fucking idea, we're like, all right, now what? Now what do we do with it? What do we do to move it forward and actually capitalize off of some of this? So Nicki, what is your, like, how did you start this? Where did this brainchild come from? What did you do in your former big girl life? You know what I mean? Was it kind of like a switch gears? Like, how did all this start for you?
Yeah, awesome question. So I recently made a career shift last year from working in higher education, and now I'm a recruiter for a Fortune 20 company. So the reason I started this business, yes, the reason I started this business is because when I was working in higher ed, I was at a lot of conferences, presenting on a lot of these topics, and there's a huge gap area. So yes, there's a very big disconnect in the way that people say that they value something and then actually do that. But particularly working with fraternities and sororities, fraternity and sorority is where privilege and power run rampant. I mean, let's just be honest. It exists, it lives, and it breathes. There is evidence of this. I'm in one, so I feel like I can talk about this in a way that is authentic. And there was a lot of issues surrounding like equity and access and exclusion and, all of these pieces. And I found myself gravitating towards a lot of opportunity where I had a platform to talk about this stuff. Now, a lot of the issues that I talk about and that are salient to me are in organizations led by people who look like me.
Right.
So I was a very palatable speaker for them. Right. I was a very palatable person. They could relate to me. Oh, cool. This white woman's coming in to talk about diversity. We can rock.
You're not threatening. You're not threatening. Right.
And what I realized was that my colleagues and counterparts who I was doing this work for were Black and brown people, and they were not getting hired. They were not getting asked to do this kind of stuff. It was only, well, Nicki, can you come to our campus? Well, Nicki, can you come work for our organization, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
So I said, well, we're not doing this for free anymore. Absolutely not. We're not going to put in all this labor for folks and then not see the fruit of that in a way
Right.
that is meaningful for our time and our talent.
Right.
So
Right.
I started the agency. Initially, it was me and two other people.
Mhm.
And I wanted to be really intentional about our team because in the higher education space, it is really hard for people who are marginalized to break into the space as speakers. There's a lot of barriers as it relates to, we need video content from you. We need all of these, reels and all of this stuff.
Right.
And you may not have $2,000, $3,000 to put down on a videographer to
Like
do
you're
that.
going for an acting gig or something.
Literally, that's
Your headshot and your reels and all that. Yeah.
So, I was trying to find sense of belonging in higher ed as a consultant and as an educator, and I just didn't find it. So I just created my own thing. And me and two other people started the agency, and then we had one other person join us, and then one other person, and now we're up to 6. And our team is fantastic. We have been doing a lot of things in the DE&I space, specifically with fraternities and sororities. And our audience is super narrow. And people always ask, why is your audience so narrow? Why do you only work with fraternities and sororities?
Right.
And our answer is because people have a lot of affinity towards their organization. You see people at age 70 wearing
my gosh. If I see another dude in a gold thong with some boots with that stomach hanging over, you know what I mean?
And people do, and they care a lot about their sorority or their fraternity, especially when they're in college. So we tap into the affinity that they have for their organization and deliver meaningful education for them with an audience that they're afraid to fail with, or that they're not afraid to fail with. They're really connected to a lot of the members, and we've just found really great success in it. And it's just taken off from there. It's something I never thought it was going to be.
So when you say you target the sororities and fraternities, do you mean the chapters themselves, or do you mean the actual members of those sororities and fraternities that actually have businesses?
Yeah, so we target the fraternities and sororities themselves.
So how does this work? Okay, so
yeah,
enlighten.
Yeah, so we have a B2B business model and a
Right.
B2C business model.
Right.
So our B2B model is typically we'll send a speaker to campus. Someone will invest in a bulk of coaching hours with us. They might buy curriculum from us to facilitate with their students in their own space. So we sell business to business. I would say about 80% of what we do is business to business. For us, high ticket items are anywhere from like $8,000 to $15,000, and that's typically where it sits.
But what are you selling them? What is it that you're teaching?
Yeah, so we do different workshops, we do trainings, we've got some signature ones. Our team members do like various sessions on implicit bias, microaggressions, inclusion in the joining process. We talk about groupthink, we talk about dominant culture. Mostly the client will come to us and say, we want you to do a presentation on A, B, and C. And we have, and this is a good business practice, we have about 100 slides in a slide deck for all these topics. And I'll take slide 15, I'll take slide 20, I'll take 25, and then that's the session for them. So we sell our thought leadership and lived experience by way of narrative-based storytelling is what I describe to people. So we sell our narrative-based storytelling, our training, our facilitation ability. And for consulting and coaching, we sell our organizational expertise and change management expertise.
So it's almost like a train the trainer. You're teaching them how to organize, how to put on a workshop, how to convey their message to their organization or to their people.
Yeah, and we do it in a way that's like, hey, this is how not to be exclusive. Hey, this is how not to be racist. Hey, there are some things that you can do in your organization to foster sense of belonging. Here's how you can create an organization that just doesn't cater to white heterosexual women. Like, here are some things that you can do, and it's very intentionally focused in the DEI space. So we're the only.
What does DEI stand for?
Yeah, diversity, equity, and inclusion. So we are the only agency that focuses narrowly on diversity, equity, and inclusion with fraternities and sororities. And I think that's our selling point. That makes us unique. And that's why a lot of people gravitate towards us.
Wow. So what do you find to be the common, I'll say, lacking thread through big question.
Yeah.
True. I mean, if you could package it like the majority of them need to work on blah,
Yep.
kind of thing, or is there a universal? Just as I've never been in a sorority, I've seen it done. The college that I was at was one of the smallest of the Connecticut State University systems. And so in order for me to pledge, I had to go to another campus, and it was like 45 minutes away. And I was like,
Right.
cool. So I've seen it from afar. I do know tight knit, they go through a lot of things together, but outside of college, the only thing you see about sororities, unless you're in one, is always something negative in the news.
100%.
Like hazing or something like that. So, are those topics that actually come up?
Yeah. So I would say there are a couple main things that come up. The first one is we have traditions. We don't know how to fix them. So like we have traditions where during our bit day, we wear sombrero hats and pass the sombrero hats around to the new members, like cultural appropriation, problematic in a lot of ways. But we've done this for 45 years. And I don't tell people that we're not doing it. So I think that the level of tradition that exists in the organization, it's really prevalent in fraternity and sorority, but it's also prevalent in a lot of other places, like large businesses that have been around for a long time. If there's a family business, it's probably really prevalent there. So how do we get out of tradition is a really big common theme that we have. And another one I would say is polarization, specifically surrounding the topic. So like people don't want to talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging because they feel like it's political, and our organizations are apolitical. So we always frame things in the way of like, it's been politicized. It's not political.
It's just common courtesy, really.
Like, I mean, humanity is what we're talking about. Yep. But yeah, I would say those are the two common themes, is like the polarization of talking about what we talk about. And then the second piece is we have those traditions and we just don't know how to get rid of them. We talk a lot about like navigating difficult conversations, leadership style through the lens of like emotional intelligence. How do we be good, effective leaders that can lead diverse groups of people in a way that's meaningful? Because when you go out into the real world, you got to do that shit, and you got to do it regularly. If you don't practice in your sorority or your fraternity, then you're not getting any practice. And we all need this.
That's true. That's true. Do you find nepotism is as big in the white sororities as it is in fraternities as it is in the Black ones?
Yeah. So I'll be honest. We primarily work with historically white organizations. There is a level of complexity to the work that we do based upon the lived experiences of people. Now, we have 2 members on our team who are members of historically Black sororities, and they primarily work with culturally based and multicultural organizations. I would say about 95% of the work we do is with historically white organizations. And there is a lot of cognitive dissonance. Like, I don't believe this is real.
I was going to say, are they accepting it? Isn't it? Right.
Well, it depends, right? When we work with the leaders of the organizations, typically they're more receptive. They have more leadership skills and abilities. Their listening skills are better. When we get to the general members, it just depends. And I'll be honest, it's regionally based too.
Yes. Based.
We operate very heavily in the Northeast. We have a lot of clients in the Northeast. They are very willing, able, ready to engage in conversation. We don't have clients in the South.
Right. I'm from Connecticut. I'm from the Northeast. And so, coming south of the Mason-Dixon line, it's a different world.
Yeah. And here. Experience things differently in a sorority in Texas. I mean, I live in Dallas. My husband works at Southern Methodist University. Like the stories he tells me, I remember last year, some some woman did not get a bid to Kappa Delta sorority. And all of a sudden the mom comes in, the grandma comes in, and they were like,
Entitled.
"You're all in Kappa Delta. Like, my daughter's never going to get married if she doesn't join Kappa Delta. You don't understand. Like, this is everything." And Adam's like, I don't know what to tell you. You know,
Plus
like
the girls, like
there's a lot of complexities surrounding it, but our whole team has experience. So everyone on our team either currently or has previously worked in higher ed. So, and with fraternities and sororities, so they get paid to be the advisor on the campus. So, I mean, we have some understanding about how that operates and lives and breathes. And again, we only work with fraternities and sororities. So we're uniquely positioned to talk to students about their fraternity and sorority in a way that like maybe a motivational speaker is not, or a trainer who does implicit bias across the country is not, because we can talk the talk and walk the walk, which I think is why we are so successful.
That's really, I'm really like, wow, that's really interesting. I'm like, because you typically don't think of sororities and fraternities as businesses like that, but they are one of the oldest,
Yep.
you know what I mean, institutions in the country, really, these sororities and fraternities like that, dating back to you know what I mean, yesteryear, and they're still around and kicking. They've got dues, they've got members, they've got chapters. So they are highly organized and, you know, highly skilled at what they do. But you're right. A lot of times, you know, we categorize fraternities and sororities as white fraternities or black, you know, sororities. And honestly, truly, like, I didn't even know that I think something was on the news a couple weeks ago, and they were talking about Delta Sigma Theta, and I didn't know that they let white people in. I mean, I'm not trying to be funny, but I just didn't know. And it's not that they don't exclude; it's just that
I mean,
it's not as welcoming, maybe.
So, I mean, a lot, and I think part of that too is, you know, the mission of Delta Sigma Theta is to uplift and advance the Black community. And there's not a lot of white people that identify with that. So as a result, they're like, hey, if I have 5 organizations I can choose from, here's the 5 missions in front of me. I might not pick that one, and here's why. But I also think, you know, so the first historically Black organization was founded in 1906. And by then, there was a boatload of historically and all white fraternities and sororities that Black students were not allowed to be in. And that's how the Divine Nine got created, is because Black students wanted to be in fraternities and they wanted to be in sororities, and they were told, no, you can't be in these fraternities and sororities. A lot of the students could not even be on the campuses until 1910, 1920, 1930. So leaders trailblazed and created their own organizations. And that's how the Divine Nine got created. So, you know, fast forward 100 years, 105 years, still have the separation of organizations. But to a certain extent, we still need that. We still need that, because if you have, I mean, there's been stuff in the news about like, the University of Alabama 2 years ago, there was a Black woman that went through the recruitment process to be in a historically white sorority. And she was not a legacy. She didn't have any letters of recommendation, 4.2 grade point average, was like student body president at her high school. She was released from the process. There is no way that if she was white, she would have been released from the process. And and then this whole story broke about how the advisors of the sororities were saying, you have to drop her. Like, we can't accept her. We'll lose alumni funding. I mean, people saying because we have members who are Black. I mean, just like asinine shit that's continuing to happen with people our age.
But you know what, though? It's the South, though. That's such a Southern, you know what I mean? It's such a Southern thing. It's such a Southern thing. So are you allowed to, without giving away all your trade secrets, are you allowed to tell us some of the schools that you've worked with in the past?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Okay. I didn't know if they were like, shh, don't tell nobody we all fucked
so
up and we, don't tell
some
nobody.
organizations do, and we've had a few organizations that have asked us to sign an NDA. Or a non-disclosure agreement for folks that are like, I wonder what that is. And they don't want the details of the partnership being shared, which I think is totally fair. But yeah, so a couple of organizations we're currently working with. I'm going to the University of Iowa next week to do some speaking there. The week after that, I'm going to the University of Madison, Wisconsin. I'm going to take you downstairs with me because my computer's going to die.
Okay.
But yeah, so the University of Wisconsin-Madison, we're working with Delta Phi Epsilon, which is a historically white sorority, all of their chapters. We've worked with Theta Phi Alpha, Sigma Delta Tau.
Wow.
The University of Indiana.
Oh, wow. Great.
Michigan State, the University of Northern Iowa. I can keep going.
Oh, wow. So you guys are really have your fingers in all of those pies. I love it. And for you to just have started, you said like 2 years ago, that tells you how much of a need
100%
is out there right now in these organizations. And it's really, people always complain that the teachers are not doing enough, the schools are not doing enough, but you got to think those students are with those teachers and in that school for how many hours a day? I don't care what the parents say. It's those schools and those teachers that are literally raising their kids because they spend more time there. So fast forward to higher education, right? Like that school environment, those people, your peers, they're all shaping your environment. They are teaching you more than you have, been taught at school. And if you're bringing that, or if there's fuckery on the campus, you know what I mean, then that's just going to be perpetuated in your lifestyle. But if you have an interception, you know what I mean, of that fuckery, and you're exploring it, and you are talking about the inclusion and not acting like jackasses and what is politically correct. And it's not just Black people, it's brown people, it's our Asian brothers and sisters, it's our Native American, it's everybody, you know what I mean, because we are not just one, you know what I mean, like one thing. And in some of the areas that you're talking about, we're talking about out in the Midwest, in the cornfields, where they don't really they're not exposed except what they see on TV. 100%. They've never even seen a Black person in for real. You know what I mean? So I think what you're doing is so important. And I love that the sororities and fraternities are actually coming to you and being like, hey, we need some help.
So it is so ironic that you say that. People ask all the time, what's your marketing strategy? Like, you all have clients on deck. What's your marketing strategy? We don't have one. We created an Instagram account a year and a half ago, and anytime we present, we post on it, and we just have organic following, and we don't have a marketing strategy. I mean, we don't have times of the year where we try to sell stuff. I do the intro calls, I send out the proposals and the agreements, and people are like, yeah, this sounds good. Like, what we do sells itself because people buy into it, right? And it's like, I can choose, I have this option, I could bring in a speaker from like this big agency, or I could work with the parallel team and we could do A, B, C, and D for the same cost.
And I think right now the climate is right.
Yep, it is.
Your agency is in the right climate with everything that happened with Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd. Everything has exploded, and it's like all eyes on race, diversity, inclusion, my Elemental P community, just everybody. It's all inclusive of everybody. And I think that given the opportunity to have that those speakers come and to be delivered that knowledge, as to it not even being an option before. Now it's an option where they have multiple options. And because it is such a situation and everybody's like, oh my God, we got to get on that. We got to jump on and get our business, you know what I mean, situated. Yeah. And we got to get, really, because it's your people that are your base.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're not.
It's so hard. It's so hard. I'll be honest, based on what you're saying, it's so hard to be in the speaking industry right now because, well, two reasons. The first reason is we're not trying to capitalize off anybody's trauma, right? Mm-hmm. This is like years
That's
and
not what I meant. That's not what I meant.
No. And I'm not saying that, but yeah. I think when you see a new group that has come up over the past 2 years with everything that's happened, you know, there's a lot of people that are like, what are y'all doing? Like, right. There's, you know, X and Y and Z and all of these pieces. And I think it's consistently trying to manage some of those things in the speaking environment. But the other part that I was thinking about as you were talking about that is like, people pay, specifically college speakers that are talking to college students. I mean, people are paying people to come to campus and make their students feel good about leadership and empowerment and being a badass woman and all of these things. And diversity, equity, and inclusion does not always make people feel good.
That's a soul searching, introspective, hurtful look sometimes. Yep.
And it's really hard to be in the speaking game right now, because while we do consulting and we provide, you know, educational curriculum and some of these pieces that maybe a traditional speaker would not, right. At the end of the day, 85-90% of our clients, we do some sort of training or speaking with them. So it's like we come to campus and our team is dynamic and they're rock star badass women, but still we're not talking about, you know, how to be an empathetic leader and empower subjects. Right. Yeah. That's what we're talking about. And it's really hard to be in the speaking game right now, because you see people who are talking about those things and doing those things, and they're going live on social media, you know, talking about reels and giving, you know, all this fun little traditional dances with students with. And I'm like, yeah, we don't have that.
Right.
That's not what we do.
We make you think about what it is that you're doing. So all of these companies that have come to you and they are like, okay, Nicki, we know we're screwy. We know we got to do better. Do you actually, when we talked about organizational goal setting and accountability, do you actually set up something with them to be able to chart maybe their progress, or if they feel like they have a, you know, by, I don't know, 2025, they want to be X amount more diverse? Do you guys like chart them or help them achieve that?
Yeah. Awesome question. So typically when someone comes to us, it's typically a student. It's typically a student leader, and they're like, hey, I'm the DEI chair in my organization, and we heard that you can do a training for us. That's how it starts about 95% of the time. So we talk to them about what are our options, how it may be more impactful if we do a training and something else. And typically that something else is the goal setting. So we have developed two things. The first thing is like an internal model that we use to help to coach people through systemic change. It's called the ability and desire chart. So as a business that sells a service, one of the things I think is so important is that you have something to sell that's your own, right? You don't want to be selling Cosner's 7S change management theory, because that's not yours. And you don't need to.
Have some originality.
Yeah. Right. So we spend a lot of time developing that, and we use that with people when we talk about what kind of package could we build for you. Right. And the second one is an accountability tracker, which we provide to all of our clients. So it is exactly what you're saying. We give them a framework. There's a couple different sheets. It's all in Excel. It's auto-populated for them. So we give them, you know, this is how you can do this. This is how you can share it on different social media channels. These are different measures of accountability that you can use, et cetera, et cetera. And it is typically what people ask for. They're like, I heard that you worked with the University of Iowa and you gave them an accountability tracker. We want one of those.
Right.
So our carrot is we're happy to give that to you. One, we don't give it out for free.
Right.
And two, we need to know that you're committed to doing something with us to help to further and advance the work. And then once we hook them, that's how they get their resources.
I love that. There are so many higher education institutions here in Atlanta, Nicki. If somebody wanted to get in touch with you, to, one of the student union leaders or so wanted to get in touch with you at one of these universities, Georgia State, Georgia Tech, there's Clark, Spelman, Morehouse, there's tons of schools, Valdosta, Albany, all over the place. Where can they find y'all at?
Yeah, awesome question. So I'm going to drop my email here.
Okay.
This is actually a really exciting time. Before I was on the call with you, I just got off the call with our business manager, and our new website's live. So, yeah, it's probably got about 5 views and about 4 reviews.
Hey, 5 more than it had before.
So we have a brand new website. We're super excited. We just transferred the domain over today, so they can definitely get in touch with the website, which is www.bparallel.co. Lose the end. If you go to bparallel.com, it's going to pull up some random thing that's not us. So
.co.
Or they can reach out to me via email at Nicki at bparallel.co. We also are pretty live on Instagram. So the best way I think to get a pulse on like what our organization is and how we can work with you is to look at our saved stories. So if you search the Parallel Agency on Instagram, you can find us, or it's just b.parallel. And it'll come up. Our color is like a bluish, aqua blue type deal.
Yeah, it's pretty. I like it. Very calming.
Yes. If you're seeing that, you got it for sure. And that's us. So shout out to Georgia Tech. We're in final conversations with them about coming to campus in the spring and doing some stuff in the fall.
So that means we gotta meet up, girl.
We can link up, most definitely. Georgia Tech, Emory is another one. We got some conversations with Emory about doing some work with them. And then I know one of our other agencies that we work closely with called the Lead Firm. They do a lot of what we do, and they primarily operate in the HBCU space. So they've worked with Clark Atlanta, Morehouse, Spelman, a bunch of HBCUs in the South.
Right.
So when we can't fulfill agreements or strategies, or it's not a good marriage, we pass people over to other people who we know are good, and then they work with them.
See, and I want to harp on that because so many small businesses feel like I got to be like, no, mine, my precious, mine. You know what I mean? And even if it's not a good fit, they're still like, no, mine.
100%.
And they don't want to just share, expand, network with those other companies like that. And I love that you said that because that gets reciprocated. So when the Lead can't do something, they swap it over to be parallel, right?
100%.
And that's the way it's supposed to work. You small business owners that are out there being all greedy and being that crab in the barrel and not playing nice, you're not doing B2B very well.
Yeah.
Take a lesson from Miss Nicki over here.
Yeah. And I mean, let's just be honest. As entrepreneurs, we can't be everything to everyone. And I don't want to work with an organization if I can deliver B+ work. I'd rather send them over to someone who they can get an A++ from. And then 2 years down the line, Jared comes to us and says, hey, can we do this collab event? We get a bunch of exposure, and then we get 10 new clients from it. Like, there is opportunity, I think, to be intentional and strategy focused, but we can't be everything to everyone. So we got to set strategy.
Every opportunity is not always for you.
100%.
Right? Just because it knocks doesn't mean you got to open that door and let that bitch in. You know what I mean?
Sometimes we just wave and move on. Yeah,
exactly. You look through the peephole and be like, no.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
You know? So I agree wholeheartedly. Nicki, it has been an absolute pleasure. I thank you so much for joining us today on Glass Table Talks. And girl, when you are here in the spring with Emory, right, and Georgia State or Georgia Tech, anybody here in Georgia, come on down because I am in Atlanta here and we will hook up and we'll do this live next time.
I love that. That'd be so awesome. Thanks so much for having me.
Yes, ma'am. You have a wonderful rest of your day. And y'all, make sure you hit up Nicki Rowlett over at B Parallel so you can get
Parallel.
Not parallel. I was gonna say, yeah. I was trying to think of something clever. I was like, no, it's not X. I keep thinking X File. I got this Scully and Mulder thing in my head.
I don't know where you got that from. I don't know. Yep. We tell everyone our like signature saying is align your words with your actions so that you are.
Love that. I love that. So everything levels out.
Yep.
You're totally balanced and even keeled, totally parallel.
Yep. Align what you said you do with what you actually do. Let's do it.
Hey, put your money where your mouth is.
That's what they say.
That's what I'm talking about. All right, girly. It has been a pleasure.
See ya.
Until next time.